Good morning. I'm Tracy Sinclair here with Alaska's News Source, and very excited because today we are going to talk about National Park Week. And it started at the weekend and it goes through this weekend, but we wanted to give some people some information about the national parks here in Alaska and how you can get out and enjoy them. So joining me to do that is Carrie Whitmer with the National Park Service. Hey Carrie, thank you so much for joining us here. So let's talk a little bit about some of the national parks in Alaska. Of course, when I think National Park Alaska, I think Denali National Park and Preserve, but we have more than that here in Alaska. Tell us a little bit about some of those.
Absolutely. We have 16 national park preserves and national monuments and historical parks in Alaska. And some of them are easy to get to. 3 of them are on the Alaska road system. And so they're very easy to get to if you're in Anchorage or Fairbanks. Denali, of course, you must know about. Denali is famous for its wildlife, easy to visit in either the winter or summer. They have these park brochures I love. These are actually, some people collect them. Denali has a summer guide and a winter guide because it's easy to visit in both seasons. The other one that's on the road system, personal favorite, is Wrangell St. Elias. It's also on the road system as you head towards Canada. And it is known for its Dall sheep populations for which it was established. It also has multiple mountain ranges. It's 13.2 million acres. It's a really huge park. There's so much to explore there. And then, of course, if you're in Anchorage and you're closer to Seward area, Kenai Fjords, famous for its tidewater glaciers. Certainly amazing parks to get to, but Tracy, there are also ones that take a little more effort to get to, and I don't want to leave them out. We have parks that you can get to by ferry or cruise ship or plane, and that's a National Historic Park like Klondike Gold Rush. That's in Skagway, and it obviously celebrates and you can learn about the gold rush in the late 1800s in Alaska. Gates of the Arctic, which is in the north part of Alaska. You can actually access Gates of the Arctic off the Dalton Highway, so you can drive there. You have to hike in a bit to access it. It's not super easy. It's much easier to fly to some place like Bettles and then to get a smaller plane into the heart of the park. Gates of the Arctic, obviously, it's a huge wilderness area. Also has spectacular wildlife, lots of adventures to have there. And then if you want to go really remote and much harder to get to, we have a park like Aniakchak. This is on the Aleutian chain, and it illuminates one of the volcanoes that are part of the Aleutian chain. So many different parks to explore. We're really lucky. We have a lot of National Park Service units in Alaska.
When we, like I said, when I think national park, I tend to think Denali. That's, of course, what most people come to see when they're like, oh, I want to see Denali when I come to Alaska. When you're talking about something like Gates of the Arctic, you have to be it's a little more rustic, I would assume. You have to be a little more prepared. Are there still facilities out in those more remote parks, or is it really just a designated area? Like Denali, of course, you drive through the big entrance and there's all that buildup around there. What's the difference when you're going to one of those more remote parks out there?
Yeah, and it really depends. Gates of the Arctic has a visitor center in Bettles, but it's staffing dependent. Some of the other ones you can land in somewhere like Nome for Bering Land Bridge, but then Nome's not within the park boundaries, so you would have to drive or fly to get into it. Same thing like Noatak Preserve, where you would need to fly or take a boat into the preserve. So with all of our parks, plan like a park ranger. You really need to be prepared for visiting these places. You can get these brochures. Most of them are available in digital copies on the park website. The other thing I would recommend is in Alaska, we have these amazing visitor centers. They're called Alaska Public Lands Information Centers, and there are 4 of them. There's one in Anchorage, there's one in Fairbanks, there's one in Ketchikan, and there's one in Tok. The Fairbanks, Anchorage, and Ketchikan appliques are actually open year round. The Tok applique is only available in the summer, but there are personnel there from multiple agencies, and they're ready to help you plan your trip. And they have access to all of these great planning brochures. They have information on how to get places. They can really give you the inside scoop. And for Alaska parks, that's what you need, because some of our parks are a little more challenging to get to. Some of our parks, like Wrangell St. Elias, like the visitor centers aren't open in the winter, but the park's still open. The park and preserve is still accessible, but you need to get more information before you go so that you're prepared.
When somebody says, you know, why do we have national parks? Why do we need national parks? How would you respond to that? What's the value of this for all of us as Americans?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. These are the American experience expressed in place. These are our public lands. And I think even more importantly for Alaskans, these are not just places that we visit. Many Alaskans, this is their home. Alaskans sometimes live within park boundaries. Sometimes Alaskans live next door to a park boundary. For Alaska Natives, they have been on these lands for thousands of years. This is not a place that they're visiting. This is a place that is home to them. And in that, we all have a shared interest in preserving these places, in keeping them for future generations so that our kids can visit and see the same amazing things and inspiring things that we get to. And also in some of our preserves and even in some of our national parks, there is subsistence hunting, fishing, gathering that is allowed depending on where you live. In preserves, hunting is allowed and depends on the park. Check your information. But again, like this isn't only people recreating in Alaska parks. This is for some of the Alaska parks and preserve, this is people doing what they do at home. And that's really important. And it's important for Alaskans. It's also important for the National Park Service to have that relationship where we realize that these lands are really important to the people who live here.
And you mentioned at the beginning that you have kind of a fondness for Wrangell St. Elias, because one of my questions is, do you have a favorite national park? Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be in Alaska, it could be anywhere. Is there a favorite? Is that like picking a favorite child?
I can't pick one, although I will say that Alaska national parks definitely hold a special place in my heart, and I am working on visiting them. Something really fun to do when you start visiting national parks and National Park Service units is to get a passport. And great for kids, but also really great for adults, obviously. And you have different sections for national parks across the country. And you can see in my Pacific West region, I'm working on getting cancellation stamp. So when you go to a visitor center, you can get a stamp. It says the date that you're there. And this is really helpful just in terms of remembering where you've been, and also maybe having some ambition to visit some of those less visited places. It gives you some motivation because you have to get your passport cancellation.
Well, I have the same thing for my actual passport. It's like, I want a stamp in this. I want proof that I have been here. So I absolutely understand that. So National Park Week, just kind of a week to celebrate the national parks. Tell us a little bit about it and what's going on for the rest of the week.
Of course. So it's an annual 9-day celebration. It celebrates everything about parks. Like I said, it's not just the 63 national parks. We actually have 429 National Park Service units. So you have to think bigger than just our Denali National Park, Denali National Park and Preserve, Wrangell St. Elias National Park and Preserve. We have national monuments. We have national historical parks like the Klondike Gold Rush. We have national scenic rivers, national trails. It's much bigger, and we're celebrating this heritage that we all share. You can follow, there are a lot of specific activities going on in the parks nationwide. You can follow us on hashtag National Park Week and find out more information.
And I have to say, if anybody's on Twitter and they don't follow the National Park Service, you absolutely need to. It's hysterical. Whoever runs that is very clever. They do such a great job.
Well, yeah, that's so great. Thank you. That's a compliment.
And Carrie Whitmer with the National Park Service, thank you so much for joining us and talking a little bit about National Park Week. I hope everybody gets a chance to get out, at least not only next couple of days, but you know, as she said, a lot of them are open all year round, so you definitely can get a chance to get out and explore some parts of Alaska that you might not have seen. So thank you, Carrie, so much for joining us.
Thanks, Tracy. Nice to be here.
And thank you so much. We will be back, with more information on what's going on across the state of Alaska. We appreciate you so much. You can join us tonight at 4, 5, 6, and 10 on Alaska's News Source. Carrie, I don't know if you're still there. Are you still there? Hello? Did you go away? Oh, you went away. Okay, sorry. Oh, there you are there. Okay. Sorry, I had your mic down too. I have to go and